What's up, everyone? This is A7X Fan Ben, and welcome to another Pirate CSG Battle Report. This is going to be for a competitive series I played between HMS Grand Temple UPS and a fleet called Ultra Abuse. So you might already know these. They were both in tournament number 3, a competitive tournament that I finished in early April 2024. And with the tournament over, there are still some matchups I wanted to play out, partly for curiosity reasons, and also I want to see some different matchups between very specific fleets just to see which one can outperform the other. So basically, I'm going with some other types of battle reports. I wanted to record all games of tournament number 2 just to have that for that entire tournament and record basically all gameplay footage and record all my strategic thoughts and things like that. So now that I've done an entire tournament with a bunch of games, like 23 games worth of like full strategy and like full raw footage, now I'm going to shift gears and change the battle reports at least a little bit. I'll probably return to some full footage at some point in 2024 as well, but I'm trying to change it up a little bit. So these battle reports for this series, at least, and probably some other ones, are going to be kind of this format where I have the pictures up and then it's just me talking raw about the game and what happened, just off the cuff, explaining what happened basically. And I'm also planning to do eventually a few videos just to try out what Xerix has done in the past for his campaign game battle reports, where he has like a script, essentially kind of like reading out a battle report that has like pictures and then text captions below it or above it, explaining what happened. So I'm going to go with those like scripted battle reports at some point too, but it's a little bit easier for me to just pop up the pictures and just kind of talk about things as they happened. So we're going to go with that for this series. And generally, this series, as with the other competitive matchups I want to do, it used the same rules for T3, which you can find. I'll put a link in the description where you can check them out. It's basically all standard rules except for a couple of house rules. And then basically it was treated as if they were tournament games, but obviously with the tournament over, these were kind of like basically like competitive exhibitions, I guess is the way you could think of them. So very competitive. And I was still thinking through things a decent amount. I did go a little bit faster. So I didn't spend quite as much time kind of overthinking the setup and being like hyper strategic about like every single island or terrain placement, things like that. But I was still pretty on point with it, I think. And also T3 gave me a lot of extremely good and very recent experience doing all that. So now I'm not saying I'm a pro at it, but it's pretty normal for me to zip through island terrain crew setups and kind of consider various like meta strategic options on the fly and just kind of go from there. So you can find these fleets in the description below. They're on PSM list, and you might already know them, of course, especially if you saw any of tournament number 3. So HMS GT UPS, spoiler alert, if you want to check out tournament number 3, all the videos are up on my channel, Pirate CSG. And the battle reports are also viewable on piratesofben.com. So they're already out there and available, so you should be able to find them easily. And I put a link in the description to at least the finals. So you've been warned, but HMS GTUPS, they won the tournament. So this is the tournament 3 champion against basically a fleet that I think almost could have faced them in the finals. I talked about it at the end of the Ultra Abuse series where they lost narrowly to Kill That UPS. I think with a little bit more luck, Ultra Abuse would have been able to make the finals. And so this would have been the finals matchup if Ultra Abuse had won that series. So I wanted to see these fleets face off. I thought it would be pretty interesting. I kind of expected HMS GTUPS to win this with this series, but we'll see how things go. So this is game 1, and you can see the fleet set up here. So they went with the same. I did the same +5 selections and everything that I did in T3. I realized now that the tournament's over, they could have more modular +5 setups where they could have a different starting 40, like initial 40 points. But I went with the same stuff. So basically the +5 selections, the original 40 for both of these fleets was the same as T3, which is what you see on the deck plates basically. And then the event underneath the Grand Temple deck plate represents that's in the starting fleet. And then the event to the left of the Grand Temple is a face down divers, and that's part of their +5s. Which of course could be modular. It could have been the Jollyman, which you see on the far left. But I will say they didn't think Jollyman would be too great in this series, too helpful. So they did go with divers, especially seeing the High Peng and Bloody Jewel deck plates in the enemy fleet. Even before they placed crew, they could see that they would be using those 2 ships. and they would probably be, if they were carrying gold, they'd probably be easy pickings for the Grand Temple. So, but anyway, so same +5 or same original 40 as T3 for both of these fleets. But of course, the +5s and all the treasure distribution aspects, those are modular per game, whether it's in a tournament or not. So anyway, just wanted to explain that. And so without further ado, we'll get started. So Ultra Abuse rolled to go first, and they also got their terrain roll. So they were able to vote for 6 terrain per player, and GT voted for 3 per player, but Ultra Abuse won. So we saw 12 total terrain placed per player. And then at the first island, so the 4 represents that Hai Peng lost a mast in the whirlpool because she really couldn't afford to lose any of her crew. And then at the island, she found a 6, a 5, Maps of Alexandria, and that scratched up 1 is a Pirate Globe proxy, because I was using the only Pirate Globe copy I have in Nevada was already being used by the GT fleet and their contribution. So we actually had 4 revealers. We had both fleets using Maps of Alexandria and Pirate Globe. So the GT UPS fleet, I should mention, they used the same treasure distribution that they ended up using for most of T3. So they did not use their kind of weakened distribution with like trees and Barbary Banner and stuff. They went with the full onslaught of like eliminators and revealers. So 2 revealers, 2 eliminators, and then Jailhouse Dog is like a one-time use eliminator as well. So they didn't necessarily expect the enemy fleet to use negative UTs, but since they hadn't faced off against Ultra Abuse in T3, they didn't know what UTs T3 Ultra Abuse might contribute. So therefore, they just wanted to cover all bases and basically have all the revealers and eliminators in their distribution in case they encountered negative UTs, basically. So Hai Peng at the first island, she finds 2 revealers, the maps and the globe, right away. So then she basically was able to see all the treasure in play. And this was ridiculous because they had already docked Bloody Jewel via Hidden Cove at the island closest to their home island. So their home island is in the far northwest. And basically they were able to use Hidden Cove to put the Bloody Jewel here, because that was the nearest unexplored wild island. And then they used a whirlpool down at the bottom out of frame and used that to have Hai Peng explore an island in the southwest. So once the revealers popped everything up, they saw that Bloody Jewel was already docked at the Ultra Island. So crazy, amazing luck for the Ultra Beast fleet, because obviously their whole fleet is dependent on that UT, or at least reliant on it. So they had amazing luck out of the gate. So they went first, they got their terrain roll, and now we see they basically had the altar on an island that was really easy to get to. So, and then we see the other UTs in play. So the eliminators, the Pirata Codex and Karmic Idol, those are on islands that are closer to the GT home island, which is down in the southeast, just out of frame there. So overall, amazing luck to start the game by the Ultra Abuse fleet. So this would bode really well for them going forward. And it almost decided the game. It was really, the writing was on the wall that Ultra Abuse would win game 1, because Bloody Jewel, all she had to do was explore to kind of trigger the altar. I guess since it's face up via the revealers, she wouldn't even really need to explore, and then she can just sack 2 crew to the altar and establish complete control over the actions taken on the HMS GT fleet's turn. So that's what happened, and quickly it became apparent that Ultra Abuse would be in complete control, and Hai Peng basically loaded the 6 and the 5 and dumped her explorer on the island to make room. And so basically she did that free transfer where you can basically, during the explore action, she traded her helmsman to the island to load the second coin, the 5, with the explorer still aboard. Then she was full with 4 cargo, and then the explore action ends, and then she uses the free transfer rules to trade the explorer to the island to get the helmsman back aboard. So it's a loophole I don't really love, but in competitive play, can't really bring your morals into it, I guess you could say. So they wanted to make sure they loaded both coins, but then retained both of their crew for maximum speed bonuses. So Hai Peng's max speed per move action was still LS. And then Bloody Jewel, she's sacked her 2 face down oarsmen. She's explored that island to load the marksman's map and the Jailhouse Dog. The dog would come in handy as an interrupt in case the enemy fleet explored and triggered the Karmic Idol or the Codex, one of the eliminators, and then they could flip Jailhouse Dog to basically cancel it and not have the altar get eliminated. But that was just a contingency option. They knew there was a chance they wouldn't even need that. So, and then Bloody Jewel left the 6 on the island because the idea here is that Hai Peng, since she has higher max speed, and Bloody Jewel is basically just she's basically just a sacrificial ship that's sacking her crew to the altar to control the enemy fleet. So the idea is that Hai Peng is going to fly over, go north, pick up that 6, and she already has 6 and a 5 aboard. That would be 17 gold and enough to win. So they just needed those 3 coins to get home so that they could win. And so what they did on the enemy fleet's turn was basically HMS GT UPS, they still had control over whether or not they used Hidden Cove. So it's debatable whether or not they should have, but Hidden Cove is a beginning of turn event. So they had to play it before. It's important you have to play it before you would do any free crew transfers because it is a beginning of turn effect. So they did flip Hidden Cove, partly so that GT would not be able to be moved onto a reef on this first turn. She might not have quite been in range of that anyway, with her helmsman face down and only S+S total speed. But either way, they wanted to get the Grand Temple out of the reef range. So they Hidden Coved her, and this was the nearest wild island, unexplored wild island to the north there. But then the problem is that the altar controller, the player, in this case Altar Abuse, the player that's controlling Altar of the Loa and used it, they have control over how the actions are applied. So they were able to determine where the Grand Temple docked at that island. So they put her on the north side. And then since the free crew transfer is a free action, they used that on all 3 ships in the HMS GT UPS fleet and basically dumped all their crew, except for the 0-point crew, of course, that have to stay aboard. So they dumped all the GT's crew on this island, and then they dumped dumped her oarsman and Aristide, and then Micron is on the bottom right, because they had Patagonia unload Micron. So, of course, as I talked about in some games featuring Altar Abuse in T3, Altar Abuse, they're not able to look at face-down crew on enemy ships when they give them actions. They can unload the crew, but they can't flip them or look at them. So the GT player retains the ability to flip crew face up so they can use their abilities. The problem is it would just make them sabotage themselves faster, because HMS GT, if she flips her helmsman and they flip Micron, that basically just allows the enemy fleet to use those, because then they could use the helmsman to get the GT through this whirlpool. She could come down here near this reef, and then Patagonia, because since she's also controlled, her actions are controlled by the Altar Abuse fleet as well. They could use Patagonia's action for the turn on GT and then reefer. So it was more beneficial to just let the crew stay face down, just have them dumped off. So either way, not looking good for GT, obviously. So this picture actually shows, it looks like halfway through the second round. So Hai Peng has used 2 actions to come up here to the altar island. She's loaded that 6. And then she basically has 3 coins aboard. And I think she must have dumped her. I think she dumped her helmsman. I think that's what Bloody Jewel has. Yeah, I think she dumped her helmsman to load that 3rd coin. And then Bloody Jewel has loaded that helmsman, but Bloody Jewel has sacked her original helmsman and her explorer, I believe. And that gives them a 2nd turn of control. So it already looks like a complete win for Altar Abuse. And this is even before that 2nd turn of control kicks in, because this is only 1.5 rounds into the game. And you can see not much time on the clock has elapsed. This was a really fast game. GT, I think, went through Whirlpool, but she couldn't go onto the reef because she wasn't quite touching it, overlapping after the Whirlpool move. So they basically just sabotaged the other fleet. And then on their turn, Hai Peng was able to use 1 action to go through the Whirlpool near home. And then on her 2nd action, via Micron, she docked home and unloaded her coins. So she couldn't afford to lose her mass. So unfortunately, Black Bart died in the Whirlpool. She had bad luck on Whirlpool travel, but it didn't really matter because they were able to win 17-0 in only about 12 minutes of gameplay. You can see only about 11 or 12 minutes have elapsed on the clock. So chess clock was not in endgame condition for this series either, but yeah, this was a really fast game. So Altar Abuse wins game 1, 17-0, and it really shows how devastating and powerful this fleet can be, especially when they go first and they get some kind of decent luck finding the altar. If they go first and find the altar, I think there's very few competitive 40-point fleets in the game that can beat them, because once they establish control, you can't play against them. They control you, and then you can barely play the game. So in this case, it looks like only a 3-round game, really only 2.5. And for both of the rounds that HMS GT got, they essentially couldn't play the game. So if Ultra Abuse goes first and they find the altar, it's as good as over, realistically. So pretty crazy, pretty dominant victory for Ultra Abuse. Not really something we haven't seen before, but it really kind of set the tone for this series, and it kind of put the pressure on HMS GT UPS, because they're the defending champ. This wasn't like a title match, but it's, still kind of maybe a little embarrassing for GT UPS to come out of the finals 3-1, winning that series, and then immediately lose to a fleet that they didn't have to face in the finals. But anyway, so hope you enjoyed the battle report. There's going to be more. Obviously, I'm going to have the other games of the series up as well in the same battle report style. Question of the day is, what kind of battle report you like best? So I guess there's really like 4 types I'm thinking of. So the original that I've done a ton of, probably 95% of my battle reports, are text and picture reports that you just read. That's mostly what you'll find at Pirates with Ben, my fan site. And then there's something like this where I do pictures, and then I basically just talk about it and what happened in real time. And then I could also do a scripted thing where I basically kind of like the original battle reports, but in video form, where I have the pictures and I basically read captions. So there's no like and I'm not saying like all the time or whatever, stuff like that. And then of course we got the full footage too. So kind of like in tournament number 3, where there's full footage of every single thing that happens, and I'm able to talk about strategy throughout. Of course, those are probably the longest ones, even including the ones you would read at Pirates with Ben. So feel free to let me know which kind of battle report you prefer. Beyond that, though, feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and I'll be back with more Pirate CSG videos. So thank you for watching.